Okay, call your mom on the phone if she's here.
She's almost dead.
47-year-old Maria Gastelum is originally from Baja California. Her sexual abuse started at a very young age. Later, it turned into domestic violence. Hear her chilling story about survival. Maria, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your story. What was it like growing up in Long Beach, California?
I'm first generation of immigrant family, so therefore there's a lot of memories in that household in Long Beach, from the typical, Mexican family. The father's the sole breadwinner, and the mother, she stays home and takes care of spends her days and nights taking care of her husband and children. So that house has a lot of memories, which include loud Mexican music, carne asada, beans and rice and burnt tortillas, and also sad memories, screams, terrors, and anything that's associated with a dysfunctional family.
There was alcohol and drug abuse in your family.
Yes, my father was an alcoholic, and so were his brothers. So there was a lot of drinking going on, a lot of parties.
Were you sexually abused in your home?
Yes, and within my family, when we get together, the whole entire family, my father's side, when the music got louder and as the adults got more and more intoxicated, since I was the only child, only girl, I played with my youngest uncles, and that's when that was their cue to take me somewhere and do things to me while all the adults were busy partying.
So you were abused by your uncles?
Yes, I was. 2 of them.
And your parents had no idea?
No, they didn't know. To my knowledge, I believe they didn't know.
Why didn't you tell your parents?
I didn't tell them because when it first started, the initial abuse, they told me that now that I was in America, and if I wanted to be American, I had to do this because everybody in America did it. And I told them I didn't want to do it, and they threatened me. They said that I would be deported. I would be sent back to Mexico, and which would, for me, it was fine. I was like, I'll go back to Mexico, and my parents, my whole family will move back. And they told me, well, your parents aren't going, you're going to go alone. Your parents are staying because they do this. And so I lived in that fear that the police was going to get me, because I wasn't having sex, or immigration was going to take me. And if I told anyone, that was the fear, if I told.
As you grew older, you went to high school. How did that abuse, because it's happening on and off. What was it like in high school?
My high school, that was my way of escaping from what was going on at home. And I would go to school with alcohol in my breath, marijuana. I would smoke marijuana, and I was hanging around the wrong crowd. That's when I would hang around with the wrong crowds. I sought gang members. I was usually the girl that was always around these gang members, always the only female in the crowd, because of the protection that I wanted them to give me that I wasn't getting at home. My choice of men was not good, so yes, there was some incidents that did occur, even though I knew better. It's just I didn't know how to break out of that cycle just yet. I really tried, because I believe that not every man is bad. So I was searching, for that good one, I guess you might want to say.
Oh, trust me, he's out there. He's out there.
Yes.
Tell me about the father of your child.
He was a gang member from Long Beach. He was very abusive. I met him the last week of high school, and the reason why I pursued a relationship with him was because he was the only boy that stood up to my father, because my father would always scare all the boys that attempted to talk to me with a knife. He'd pull a knife out on them. And this one, he didn't run, he just laughed in my father's face. So I figured this one's gonna protect me. Like, here I go again, trying to get protection. And that was a big mistake, because he abused me all the 10 years. There wasn't one day that he didn't yell at me, slap me, kick me, punch me, spit on my face, call me names, and remind me that I was not a U.S. citizen, that I can go back, you know, I can get kicked out of this country anytime. And so I really didn't feel too much support anywhere. So I had to learn to survive and defend myself any way that I could.
He treated you this way for no reason?
Yes, 10 years. Keep me against my will. I was able to go home when he said that I could go home.
Very controlling.
Yes, extremely.
So how did you pull yourself out of this abuse? When did you decide that was enough?
It kind of progressed throughout the years, because throughout my life, even though I was abused, I learned how to defend myself through education. I enrolled in the local community college, and I have a very strong faith. I've been saved. I accepted Jesus as my Savior at the age of 9. And that was another way, you know, that I wanted someone to protect me. And so I always held on to that, even though whatever was going on. And I just learned to educate myself, because knowledge is power. And a lot of things that I like to do, a lot of like hobbies. I love to sew. My mom taught me how to sew at the age of 6. I love fashion. You know, I took fashion courses, and I just love people. So sometimes I would like to meet new people and just hear, you know, their story, because I know I'm not alone. I've always known I haven't been alone.
When did you finally call it quits and say, that's it, I'm leaving you?
Well, actually, that was a blessing in disguise, because he left me. I would be praying every day. I couldn't leave him because he threatened to kill me, my family, if I left him. So I was like, Lord, you're gonna have to do something, you know. And it took me 10 years. It took 10 years for it to happen. Finally, he met someone else, and now he's someone else's problem, not mine.
Your mother left your father at the same time you left your boyfriend, and you both lived in a shelter?
Yes, that was in 1995, and that was another time in my life when I had reaffirmed my faith, you know, as a Christian. And my mother ended up in a homeless shelter in Long Beach too. And the reason she did is because of my father's family, and I'm not going to go too much into it because I know what they're capable of, but she was in fear. She feared for her life. So then shortly I went in there too, because that's when my daughter's father decided to marry someone else, and I ended up homeless too. I didn't want to stay home with my father either, because every day he wanted to find out where my mom was, and I wasn't going to tell her. So it wasn't a great experience there either, because I got sexually harassed there also by one of the tenants that was living there. And I was aware that a lot of men in the community came by as soon as they found out there was a single available woman. And I just said, no, you know, that was this is my life. I'm trying to get together. I'm not going to get involved in something, and especially in a marriage when it involves anything less than love. I don't believe in getting married for the wrong reasons.
What would you tell other women who may be in the same situation you're in right now? What advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, regardless of if it's a woman or a man or a child, I would tell them, well, first I would say, I'm sorry that happened to you, and you're not alone. You are somebody, and you are important, and there is a purpose in your life, and you can get help, and together, you know, we, as a community, you can get the help that you need.
Anything else you'd like to share with us?
I would just like to thank all those that are involved in the domestic violence movement, from maybe therapists, the community, the media, who are educating and letting others know what's going on, and this is an epidemic, and no one deserves to be treated this way. And even if you're undocumented, I just want you to know that you still have basic human rights. Don't let no one tell you you don't have any rights, because for so long I lived in that fear that because I was undocumented that I didn't have any rights, that I was nobody. But you are somebody.
Thank you. Stay with us. You're watching Behind Closed Doors.